So the next thing we want to do is kind of take a look at the firearm. They're all going to be different in terms of the controls and things that we need to protect. Remember that as a gun is entering a holster, it's entering from this direction. So anything forward of any certain point is not a concern in terms of snagging or that something that you'd have to build up. It's anything that's from that point back that you have to follow. So a good example would be this point right here, where the slide lock comes in with the safety, and the fact that that pin is smaller than this means that we need to take this piece and we need to protect it back all the way back, so that when this slides in, it's not trying to go through a small channel like this toward the back. Some people will go ahead and cut their holsters back to avoid those types of areas. I don't like to build the holster around the controls. I'd rather build up the firearm so that it will work. That way, if I want to have a cool little angle, something decorative, something that's a little more protection, we can build that in. The other thing is you got to look at mag releases. This is a very, very stiff mag release. I don't anticipate that's going to be anything that's going to get caught on the sometimes they'll get depressed in the pressing process, and then when you go in there, that mag release will bump up against a part of the holster, and you got to relieve that out. And but I still try to build up to make sure that those types of things are addressed ahead of time, to make sure that we have kind of some. It needs to look like you had forethought into the holster. The other thing we look at is the rails. If it has a rail on it, I like to build up around the rail. Although it looks really cool with all that imprint and impression in your holster, it's really another place that can the holster can snag. So you're trying to fit all of this into a very, very tight little spot to make it line up. So as always, we're going to put a sight channel. We're going to build in a sight channel. I use a few different types of doweling rods to build that up. A big one that a lot of people forget is the ejection port, and I just couldn't stress enough how important it is to protect that and cover that ejection port. It's really, really important because it's the reason that most holsters don't fit well, or they get way too tight, especially with an ejection port that's like this. It's got a very, very sharp edge to it. That'll drag in the holster as you come out, and this will drag going. This won't drag going in because, again, like I said, it's behind that mold point. So anything behind a sticking point's not a problem. It's what's in this case, because that holster would stop here and it wouldn't dig into it. Again, safeties, those types of controls. I usually don't worry too much about these pins, these takedown pins, mainly because they're so low profile, and it actually aids in the retention. Sometimes I'll build the triggers up all the way and rely on these hardened pins to be a good part of my retention, and it works really, really well. I like to leave detail in. Especially on a 1911, you see this detail on the dust cover. Really, it says 1911. So you want to leave those types of things in. At least I do, to kind of make sure that I keep that style.